Jason, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, sir. Very good, sir. So welcome. This is Jason White. He is the director of SEO over at Hertz Rent-A-Car, correct?
Correct. Yep. I also oversee Dollar Thrifty and car sales too.
Oh boy, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, give us a little bit about your history there.
I started in search marketing really by mistake. I was trying to avoid doing work.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at a bike shop at the time. It was winter.
Wait, back up. You were trying to avoid doing work.
Yeah.
So you got into
Aaron, and now everybody knows Aaron.
So you got into the gig's up. If you don't want to work, just go into digital marketing, right?
Oh, it is, yeah. It's so easy. Anybody can do it. It's just keywords and ranking.
Jason, you're killing me, man.
That is fantastic.
So, I mean, but listen, in Boston, wintertime, it's awful. You're changing flat tires. It's cold. It's wet. You have to dust off frames. It's just, there's nothing to do.
Right.
So I realized that I could get on eBay. I could probably hawk a couple things that have been sitting around and not selling. I had no idea that there was like a whole industry and acronym behind what I was doing at the time.
Right.
It was actually a kind of spammy black hat, but that's how eBay was, in the earlier days.
Oh, sure.
So, obviously my boss was pretty pissed off at first, but then he saw how much I sold, and suddenly I was able to sit on the computer a little bit more as part of my daily workflow. And that's like really how I got into it. I parlayed it into a couple of different roles, gigs. I've sold Segways. I've sold like personal transporters for the older generation, like kind of the Rascal Scooter, stair lift. I've sold patches, like embroidered patches that go on fireman uniform or Boy Scouts. And like through all that, kind of became like a T-shaped marketer and gained a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. And like every position I've ever had, I'm sure like anybody else in this industry, you have to wear many, many different hats. And you learn how to use data and everything that you do to apply to other areas. So, what would I do with PPC, or how I would target Boy Scouts and talking to different demographics.
Yep.
Like what you would target with the bikers is absolutely not appropriate to target with Boy Scouts and vice versa. But really just learned how to make database decisions and apply what I was learning in one area to another area. And, from the patch company, I jumped into agency life. I tried desperately to get into the PPC department at Dragon Search because I thought that SEO was a joke and a bunch of snake oil. And really all I wanted to do.
Okay. Jason, are you a friend or foe?
No, I'm a friend. But, like, there's definitely things that we still do in the industry that are kind of a joke. And like we've matured a lot in the last 5 years, I feel. And like the gap between the people that are practicing at a super high level and the people that like are just getting by has definitely increased. And you don't see as many people just getting by anymore. There's definitely a lot of
you're absolutely right.
A handful of people in the deep end. It's good to see that we have matured and we're gaining a seat at the big boy table, and making good decisions. But there's definitely some more improvement to go.
No, you're absolutely right, and we've seen that as well. As the maturity of the industry has really it's shaken off, the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, separated the wheat from the chaff, and that mediocrity that posed as SEO, right, is no longer there, and it's a good thing. And on top of that, the businesses that hire agencies are more savvy than ever before. They've learned along the way what they need to pay attention to. So there's a convergence of stronger skills and more savvy and educated businesses, and that spells for a good deal of increased success. Absolutely, as well as accountability.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think that a lot of people have done a really good job in educating their clients and being fully transparent in the actions they're doing and the results that it should have, and letting them know when there's a business problem that the client has that they need to solve. If they don't have a way to track sales, let's say, or a way to understand what the most profitable products are.
Absolutely.
And go less off of gut feel and more off of data. So I think it's been from both areas.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, previously you were the VP of SEO and social media marketing over at Dragon Search, and you've also been a speaker at SMX East in 2014, as well as speaker at SMX Advanced. You were talking about Twitter View. Can you give me a slight small insight into the Twitter View presentation that you made?
I talked about employee advocacy at SMX Advanced, and really kind of what I did was I compared it to the mafia and how the mafia works in just spreading information. I've had pretty good success in creating content campaigns and using internal resources, creating them as subject matter experts or like industry luminaries, and then. After you get a couple blog posts, you get them comfortable as being a quote-unquote author.
Right,
a lot of times we'll ghostwrite for that individual, but really get them a part of the process, really do really solid interviews with them, get inside their head, get inside the problem of the client or customer is facing, and create content around that. We get good SEO success with that, but then you need to use social as a catalyst or a driver to kind of spread that message. So with the employee advocacy piece, we can then get the author involved in using their social profiles. We're able to market to whoever follows them. And if it happens to be like a salesperson, they understand LinkedIn, they understand the value of LinkedIn,
right.
And we're giving them content that they can then share to the people that they're interacting with and following with. And if we do it in the right way and we're solving client problems, we can create them content at the right time to serve as kind of like a, hey, client, by the way, we just wrote this piece and I thought it was useful for you. So, kind of looking for areas of opportunity to make the most out of everything that you are creating, but also making sure that you're using all the channels available to you to spread that messaging and get the right signals in all the different areas that it's so important to. So that's what I talked about in advance. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Always learning experience, always trying to do it a little bit better.
That's a smart play right there, because you're serving two things. You're serving some good quality content for that influencer, right? But at the same time, you're able to move a message, move a goal down the line by having an influencer actually champion it into his tribe. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And I've actually been experimenting recently with influencer campaigns and using employee advocacy as part of that. And working out different strategies on how to, we're sort of like blasting out all these specific messages. We're leveraging their social connections, but there's more efficient ways that you can do it, with content and just getting that message out there.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, hey, why don't you give me a day in the life of Jason White?
Ooh, current day or
a
day 3 months ago. So I made the jump from agency side to in-house to the corporate. I moved from upstate New York, Hudson Valley, to Southwest Florida.
Whoa!
So just about everything in my daily existence has just been uprooted and flipped on its end. I left and the colors were beautiful, and I'm looking at palm trees right now. So I haven't really established a day-to-day routine yet. Word has kind of gotten out that I tend to know some things about digital internally at Hertz. So I've been getting pulled in so many different directions, despite trying to just stay in my lane and get my SEO house in order. And,
right.
Work with my agencies and stuff like that. But it's super exciting to kind of, Hertz historically has been underserved digitally. And they've made a big investment recently in getting back into digital marketing. And for whatever reason, they want to take an SEO first mindset. So, even if it's tweaking title tags and meta descriptions,
it's because SEO rocks,
SEO
Jason.
What's that?
It's because SEO rocks. That's why they choose that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just kind of an interesting experience because usually we're fighting.
Yeah.
I'm fighting so hard to get things implemented, but since joining here, it's just everybody's on board, everybody's excited, and it's a fantastic culture to be a part of. Everybody sees the vast opportunity that digital is and is all in.
Well, that's fantastic, and that really does exemplify the difference between, I guess, SMBs and the enterprise level of what they can actually adopt from a a culture side of things. And tell me more. I mean, have you experienced that? I mean, I certainly do want to talk about the agency to corporate shift there, but have you seen this type of embrace of digital marketing tactics inside organization often when you're dealing with corporations?
From the agency side, yeah.
More that's what I kind of figured.
The last 6 months to a year.
Right.
I think that people, as we were alluding to before, a lot of education, a lot of learnings have happened, and people are really seeing just the ability to have fantastic reach and to have a return on that reach and be able to track the return on what you're investing. Whereas print and some of the more old school forms of media, you can't necessarily track the ROI as accurately as you can with digital.
Nope. So
it makes it a lot bigger. It makes it there's risk involved with anything that you do, but it's almost like a for sure thing. You know that you're going to have some type of return unless you have some type of disastrous thing happen.
No, absolutely. I failed to introduce the other individuals in the room here listening to you. So let me go around the table real quick. We've got Tom Broadbeck of Site Strategics.
Hey. That's all my input, and there we go.
That's it. We also have Caleb Handsome Dan, who's our SEO specialist at Site Strategics as well.
How you doing, Jason?
Hello.
And he looks he has no offensive look to his face whatsoever. I mean, you'd think he'd be.
What does that mean?
No idea where we're going here.
I hope you're not talking about our guest again.
He looks like he's not offended by the SEO slights that you were throwing. As opposed to, oh my Lord, that was ugly. And we also have Doug Carr from Marketing Tech Blog in-house.
And I make all the SEO slides.
Yes, you do. So anyway, forgive me. I failed to introduce the team over here. So the question I had here was, you've made the move from agency work and you took on this role over at Hertz. Tell us about the decision making that you went through to actually kind of jettison from the agency track. And there's a lot of pros and cons in this, and I know you weighed all this, and jumping into that, and going a different career path. Give us some insight into what spurred you to do that.
There was a lot of discussion with my wife.
Yep.
That was definitely how to get her blessing first and foremost.
Yeah.
Really, it's just kind of an evolution. I felt that maybe I was kind of topped out. Agency life is very difficult. You're sometimes fighting the brand, trying to get them to do what you need to do. At the same time, you're kind of fighting the agency, trying to protect the brand from some of the stupid things the agency might want you to do. You got to track every last minute of your time and have certain billable percentages and stuff like that. And it can be kind of daunting. It can kind of be difficult to have that creative analytical mindset that you need for SEO. There's a certain amount of just emotional investment in the brands. I don't know. I can't speak for other SEOs out there, but I want to win, and I'm all in with my brands, and I love my clients that I worked with, and all the campaigns that I had. But there were definitely clients that weren't aligned with what they should be doing, or especially really, really early on in my agency life, I experienced a lot of abusive clients. Which was really, really beneficial to me. It was really needed, but it also hurts you. It burns you out. And so you get emotional with some of your clients, and you can keep them for 3 years or longer than that, and really have really strong relationships with them. And they decide to move in a different direction for whatever reason, and that can definitely impact you and kind of be a bummer. There was a lot of different aspects to it, and really just wanting to advance my career in ways that I wouldn't have been able to. There's a lot of bigger business problems on this end. The scale is much, much bigger than anything that I experienced in the agency side. The resources that are available to me, we have an entire data department, which is just a bunch of rocket scientists. It's crazy to listen to them talk and bounce things off of each other. But just the ability to work at scale and have a much larger impact, and to build out skill sets that I don't currently have or wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise.
Oh, that's an awesome list or a perspective of what you've gone through.
That was a ramble, but thank you.
No problem. No problem.
Plus, there's Southwest Florida versus New York, upstate New York, right?
I mean, there's always that location.
But in
Right
Florida,
now,
you've
that
got
is the choice. Absolutely. I mean, we spent 3 days at the beach last week, which was pretty killer, and I think it was like in the 50s or 40s back home. So,
have you run into the world's worst superhero, Florida Man, yet?
No, what's that?
I've never heard of Florida Man. I'm going to Google it right now.
@_Florida Man on Twitter. Enjoy.
_
You're welcome.
Florida Man.
Florida
All right.
Man.
We'll check it out.
Is that the repeated like news?
Yeah.
Yes.
Florida Man does this. Florida Man does that.
It's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if it happens, it happens in Florida.
Wow. See, yeah, that's. Is this the guy?
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Well, we can't read the first tweet from November 9th.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's obviously a career path that I mean, for professionals, maybe touring the agency roles and then gathering experience and charting off into the corporate singular employee role. I guess. Because there absolutely is that side of the equation that a lot of people don't like to stay in the agency space, and for a lot of the reasons that you listed there. I mean, you do have only so much depth that you can go into with any given client, and you do have a scope. You have a scope of hours that the engagement allows. You can't go deep diving into the environments that you really want to go into regularly. I mean,
Right.
it really depends on the engagement, obviously. You also have to have a culture on the company side or the brand side that actually embraces everything that you can possibly bring to the table, right?
Yeah. And I mean, to the Dragon Search's credit, they enabled me to do some amazing things, and I mean, they sent me all over the place and really cultivated me as an individual. So, it's kind of bittersweet to leave there. I'd still be happy if I was still, there today.
Mm-hmm.
But like, this just kind of seemed like an opportunity that was just too good to pass up. And, as you mentioned too, like, this is a path that I've seen other SEOs make. And it seems like, this path is largely enables them to just continue on that growth path and continue on, into some of the larger things that I'm trying to chase down as well.
Well, do you think that this is something that agencies should actually embrace and encourage, or stay away from when looking at employees and hiring?
That's an interesting question. I mean, you really need self-starters. You need like type A people. Mm-hmm. I feel like agency roles and people that are really just going to go after it and get the job done. And yeah, you got to pay attention to scope, but I've coached my team that like I don't care really what it takes to get done. If you go over budget a little bit this month, you might go under budget the next month, and all things being equal, it's all going to even out in the end. And really, the client success is what we're all after, and that was really what I was constantly chasing. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult climate. It's a very difficult job to have. It's client facing. You need to have a lot of different skills, a lot of different hats that you need to wear. For a very, very complex industry. I mean, we joke that it's just keywords on a page. It's put some keywords on it, SEO it, but like there's some intricacies here that you win or die by. And it's really hard for an agency to take care of their people. Being taken care of means many different things for many different people. But I think that like if I owned an agency, that would be the biggest thing I would invest in is my people and making sure that they were the best that they possibly could be, but also investing in them as emotional human beings.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I think agency ownership. I mean, they have to embrace and support the career paths of the individuals that come on board with them. I mean, you're never going to have somebody work their entire lives in an agency. There's always, I mean, especially in the digital marketing environment, there's always an environment where people are going to be moving and they're finding their passions, and maybe, and there's so many different disciplines inside of digital marketing is that you may change tracks and you may find that, the agency that you work with doesn't have the depth of knowledge in a particular area that you you first pursued. So I mean, there's those limitations as well. But on the company side of things, the singular company that employs someone maybe coming from an agency, or they're starting their department, or they already have a rich department of digital marketing. Well, what can you tell companies that are looking to staff their own SEO department? What suggestions would you make? Because herein lies the issue, is that there are pros and cons of creating an in-house environment for your digital marketing, as well as continuing to work with agencies, because, I mean, agencies are getting sharper and sharper. But, I mean, if you were to make some recommendations for companies on the in-house side of things, what would you do? Or what would you tell them?
I think it probably depends on your size. It depends on your space, how competitive it is. The real benefit to working with an agency is that, yeah, you might have an account manager, account lead, you might have like a SEO specialist, technical, you might have like a social specialist and stuff like that. But, an agency is going to pull in multiple minds for problem solving sessions.
That's right.
The good agencies are going to have just openness among them where information flows. They're going to be de-siloed. PPC department is going to work with the SEO department, and social is going to communicate with SEO, and content generation is going to communicate with everybody. That interaction is something that is a must in 2016 moving forward. You can't be having siloed marketing departments. The more that you can de-silo your practices, the better. And I think that's definitely a shift that's happened in the last couple of years in agencies. But just that communication, that ability to tap into multiple experiences and knowledge levels and ideas is something that I think is really beneficial for agencies. If you're looking at build in-house, I think that you still are going to need agency support because the in-house person is going to get pulled in so many different directions. They're really going to be like the boots on the ground, so to speak, that communicates back to that agency, that needs the agency to do some heavy lifting, whether it's like redirect mapping or creating some audits. Certainly there's the ability to be a one-man band in-house, but you have to be realistic with the expectations and how much one person can actually do in terms of SEO marketing in a 40-hour week.
Exactly. I mean, you're betting on one person, obviously, and if they're not a Jason White, right? Then you may have a substandard SEO. I mean, unfortunately, if the company's shopping around for SEO experience, they don't have the vetting talent that agencies do. Right. And you may come up craps sometimes on somebody that you're throwing a pretty sizable salary at, just to be able to have that in-house specialist at that 160-hour a month individual, right? I mean, it's challenging to say the least. By hiring the SEO specialist, your SEO project depends exclusively on one singular person, as opposed to that entire outsourced agency that is always paying attention to the trends and the concepts and the topics that are in that space. Doesn't mean that the individual can't, but I mean, the agency is forced to keep their sword sharp and their powder dry. Otherwise, they will continue to lose clients, right?
Yeah, and like, whether you're looking to go in-house and you're interviewing a lot of people to bring someone in, or if you're working with an agency, I mean, get referrals. Talk to other people that have worked with the individual or worked with the agency. Review some of the websites that they've done, who they've worked with. I think that people can be a pretty good indicator, or people can like kind of sniff out and understand quality versus something that is a little bit subpar. And the good people are out there. There's plenty of great agencies. There's plenty of great people out there. I think that if you take enough interviews and you get good at interviewing and speaking the digital language, you're going to find the person that is right for your business, or even the agency that's right to support your business.
I think you just do a Google image search of the person's name, and that can determine.
Sometimes.
There's a joke there, Jason, and I just gotta.
Well, did you Google search Jason White?
No. This is.
No. That's directed at me.
Yeah. Google a Google image search for Aaron Sparks.
See, the problem is
he's beautiful. All of them.
The problem is, Jason, if you haven't known, I have my name is spelled with an E, ERIN, which is evidently the way a particular gender, besides myself, besides my own, commonly uses as their name. So there's a massive amount of female pictures whenever you're searching for Aaron Sparks, including one singer that cannot go away.
And I like to remind him of it at least once a month or so.
Especially on air when we're talking to one of our guests.
You're the third one. I just Google search it. You're the third one.
You're the third one now?
Well, it's probably personalized because I have a Site Strategics email address. True. Let's do incognito.
Damn Skippy it is.
So I have a similar problem, but it's not just image search. So Jason White, I've raced in NASCAR. I've been a bull rider. I won the Heisman Trophy. I don't know, you remember when I quarterbacked for Oklahoma in 2003? I'm also the bassist for Green Day. So I'm like
you rock, man.
Findable search engine optimizationer.
That's fantastic.
Is that even a word?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's kind of hard to find me.
It's kind of like this, Jason.
But at least it's all men.
I just knew Aaron Sparks, dude. You see, it's very easy, Doug, to optimize with Douglas Carr.
I know.
Right? There's not that much competition.
I know.
So, I mean, Google abhors a void, right?
There's a producer out in New York that's pretty big that.
You guys there?
But he goes by Doug Carr.
Sure. Right, exactly. Anyway, Jason, we'd like to talk to you more, not Doug. We'd like to jump in. I appreciate those comments inside of the in-house and the agency space. That certainly is a challenge, and I mean we're seeing more of that inside of enterprise level type of organizations.
There's an important message there too, and I think he hit on it. One is that, when you have a dedicated staff like that, you just don't get the exposure, right, that we do.
Right.
We're constantly talking to folks like Jason and all over, and so we learn these different perspectives and then go research them and everything else. The second is, like you said, we find it all the time. Like, I remember being part of an enterprise, and you would have a consultant in, and everybody would groan, "Oh, we got money for a consultant," But and the thing was the consultant didn't have to be there at 8 a.m. for the morning meeting. He didn't have to do his document everything in his daily journal. Mm-hmm. He didn't have someone that was upset with him, so he had to talk to his boss about this conflict. All the consultant had to do was fix the problem.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And I've always respected now you sit on the opposite side of the table, that a consultant really just gets to go in there and help you fix the problem. That's an awesome thing.
Yeah, there definitely is power in that. And that was kind of my point too, is that there's so many other things you could do that you're not getting 40 hours of SEO.
Right.
Maybe you're lucky you're getting 20.
Exactly.
Or 25 out of a week, so that's something to keep in mind too.
And there is always one other element, is that, I know I'm going to get some boos from the room here, but there's a point of diminishing returns. There's so much SEO that you can do on a site structure unless you redevelop the entire thing, and if you have latitude to do that. But there's so much that you can do until it's coming to a point where we really need the other executions of social media, other executions of paid. I mean, there's a lot of other, arrows in the quiver, so to speak, from a digital marketing standpoint. And SEO, I mean, not that it doesn't deliver, but it does have a ceiling that it can get to with a finite space of a website. Who would disagree with that?
I view myself as a digital marketer, and I'm siloed with the SEO title, but it's digital, and I'm making recommendations that are well outside of my swim lane, that have an impact in that space. So if there's a gain to be had, I'm going to make it. And too, even though I play in the digital space, I pay attention to legit marketing, or not that digital is not legit. I did not mean it.
That's too.
I pay attention to marketing in the real world, so to speak, and what trends happen, and what big brands are doing, and print and billboards and whatever else is out there. I consume media just like everybody else does. So if I see an opportunity that's going to have an impact in the physical space, and I can do something in the digital space to support that, that's absolutely going to be a recommendation of mine. I don't really care that it doesn't fall in the SEO purview, and alt tags aren't correct, or I don't have a transcript on a page or something like that. Like, I just want the win.
I think that there's an important, and I keep reiterating stuff that you're saying, Jason, but I love that, because we like traditional marketing as well. And one of the things about traditional marketing is the huge risk of it. So if you're going to do a direct mail campaign or whatever, you're going to have thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars pumped into it, and you're not going to see the results maybe for 3 weeks or something. And it really is. Right. So you really do pore over the data, make sure you're doing everything right. Whereas people that started in digital marketing, they've never had that kind of risk associated, and so they tend to just go, well, let's try it, see if it works. We'll make adjustments on the fly, and there's a certain elegance, if you want, or efficiency to be an old-time marketer that went through the trials and tribulations of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and flopping, before.
That's true. Well, any last thoughts on the agency versus in-house? But I actually think anybody?
No.
We're all good there, huh? I actually think there's a cobble industry that could actually be there's an environment where companies could hire agencies to vet that next person that they need for their staff.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. We've done it.
Yeah, okay.
We've done it. We've had a couple of clients where we trained their SEO person.
Well, there you go.
And that's definitely needed too in some scenarios. I think there's like John Doherty or somebody like that has like a company. I'm probably going to butcher his name, like called Cridu or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exactly what he does, where he like vets consultants and individuals and can connect them with brands.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, hey, Jason.
Completely wrong in understanding his product.
Jason, I'd like to go into a small segment here in a second and just talk about some of the things that you're doing over at Hertz. Would you mind divulging some of their secret sauce there?
Secret sauce. Well, I was planning on sending this to my bosses. Really, I'm just trying to get my house in order more than anything else. I'm wrapping up my strategy right now for all three of the major brands that I'm working with, and working to get content marketing up to speed. So, if any of my competitors are listening, I'm coming for you.
Nice. There it is.
Yeah. I'm looking in my eyes, but I'm super excited. The opportunity is just absolutely clear as day to me, and I'm super excited to be here. So it's really just getting everything in order before we hit launch.
Well, Caleb actually had a question for you in the space of some of your tactics. Go ahead, Caleb.
Sure. So aside from obviously going off after that geographic component for people, particularly in the rental car space, somebody's flying into Indy or Fort Myers or wherever, and they're needing a rental car. How are you sort of changing that strategy from that versus people, so your business travelers versus your families versus, the guy with the midlife crisis who just needs a convertible for the weekend?
Yeah. So I think the benefit of being able to work with three brands is that we're positioning each of those brands in a little bit different way so that they reach those different demographics. One of the things, I don't think that keyword research is really providing the value that it once did. And I really think that schema markups are kind of the future-proof version of the keywords. That's not to say you shouldn't do the keyword research and understand what you're going after, but I think the personalization that we've seen in the SERPs in the last couple of years,
right,
and even in the last year, has completely changed the face of what SEO is, and makes rankings just an absolute vanity metric or a lead indicator. I think that especially car rental is probably our most important phrase. But I think that everything is getting personalized for that phrase. So it almost doesn't matter what I do. I just need to market. And I don't want my stuff to look like I touched it. I should be able to send it to Grandma White. And she would Grandma White doesn't have any idea what I do to begin with. But that's a whole other side tangent. But she should be able to look at a piece of my content and what I create and not tell that it's been SEO'd. And I think that's
that's the game right there. No place for spam. No place for junk.
I don't need to worry about.
No, you're absolutely right.
Right. It's marketing, man.
So what's you said you haven't really started yet, but when you're doing your planning there, what's the first thing you're going to tackle? What's the major flaw that you see with Hertz or your other brands there, SEO wise?
So historically, like I've always been a champion of clean crawls and making sure that search spiders aren't encountering or are encountering a minimal amount of errors. So that's really what I'm going after. Is just I want to get established clean crawls. I want clean sitemaps. I want minimal 404s. I want minimal internal redirects. Definitely going after canonical tagging and duplicate content, orphaned content, which with like a brand like Hertz has been around for a long, long time. We got a lot of that stuff. So that's basically what my life is going to look like for the next 6 months. But I place a ton of value in that. It's going to be a really big piece at the enterprise level. I know that it's a challenge and that I'm not going to have a squeaky clean site, but I'm creating KPIs that are going to be able to measure and track and show that site health is improving. And then like the other piece too goes back to personalization. We have thousands and thousands of locations across the world, and we have a couple thousand domains across the world. So not something I'm going to be able to tackle in the first year, but internationalization of our domains and right down to hyperlocal is going to be a huge, huge focus for us.
Let me ask you something. During your interview, right, or interviews, series of them, did you have to bring the full strategy? Did they press you to tell them what you're going to do for them?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, I was prepped for it. I had done site audits and like I knew the lay of the land. I knew what I was expecting. I was lucky enough that I was brought in by somebody that I'd worked with on other projects for other companies and had a really good relationship with them for a couple of years, via the agency. So I definitely was privileged in that regard. I've never been a part of the interview experience like it. I think I had like 5 interviews in 4 hours, but it was actually a ton of fun. And
that's called a gauntlet.
Yeah, and I ran it. But like, it was more the experience. More than anything else. No. I didn't have to totally deep dive. Everybody kind of knew what the problems were. And it was really just about how we can fix these.
How big of a piece of the pie does the car sales piece, end of it have versus the rental?
It's like other things. It's just been historically underserved. So I don't have like a complete view of that yet.
Sure.
But it's something... as you could understand, we buy new cars, we get them in our fleet, we manage the fleet, we move it all around, and then we need to buy new cars because that's what people want. So we have to move those cars somehow. And, this is just a piece of that supply chain.
So is the competitive set there, would that be like, the local dealerships and, autotrader.com, or what does that competitive makeup look like?
All of the above. I mean, you have local car dealerships, you have our car rental competitors are doing this. You have used car lots. You have Craigslist, people selling each other cars. Really, like the competitive space for car sales, I think, is much, much deeper. And like kind of the challenge too is that I could have a Chevy Impala in a lot in Chicago, and I need to get that page to rank for the person that's looking for a Chevy Impala in Chicago, and don't really care about the person in St. Louis because we're not really going to truck a car down to St. Louis to sell them that Impala. So the challenges are going to be quite different than with car rental.
Well, I wanted to wrap up this episode with you, and I really appreciate all the great comments that you had regarding the industry, your challenges inside of moving from an agency to a corporate gig. What excites you about your industry right now? Let me ask you that.
Nothing.
Nothing. He hates SEO.
I got to pick one thing. No, I mean, it's marketing. And I think that people are really seeing the return that digital can have, and there's a big investment in it. Yeah. And it's something that if you're in the right organization, you're in the right agency, you can really go far and do a lot of really, really cool stuff with it. And I think that it's a really cool space to play in.
Oh, very awesome. Well, I mean, we were impressed with one thing when we were checking you out and seeing your history. You've raced bikes for a heck of a long time, and in 35 states, and you've ridden the highest mountain pass in Europe. Tell us about that right there, because that's pretty darn unique.
Yeah, so I think I was like 15 or something, and one of my best friends and I used to go mountain biking, and he encouraged me to try to race, and I tried to race, and I won by 7 minutes. I think my mom brought me and threw my bike in the back of her Saab or something like that. And, I was kind of, you win a race from your first time out, you're kind of addicted to it from there on out. So I raced for probably like 15 years, 16 years or something like that. I still get out occasionally, but I have kids, so it's become a little bit more difficult for me to train and to be at the level that, I want to be.
Right.
But I went to school, and when I went to college, they actually had a race team. So I was able to travel almost every weekend all over the Southeast and central U.S. and saw, all kinds of parts of the country from the back of a church van, which is super cool. And last year at this time, I spoke at SMX Milan, and my wife actually made fun of me because like a couple weeks before, I was doing all this research on the couch, watching TV at night and stuff like that, and she's wondering what I was doing. And she made fun of me because most people, when they go to Milan, they're going to research all the restaurants that they're going to go to. But I was researching what mountains I could actually climb and how I was going to rent a bike and how I was going to get myself to the mountain. And I had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3:30 or something like that and get a taxi cab. And I convinced the taxi cab to put the bike in the back of his car. And there were all kinds of crazy hurdles. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. There's snow, in the forecast for this particular mountain pass.
Right.
But I made it all happen. I drove 4.5 hours each way. I rode my bike for 3 hours up the Stelvio Pass, and it was just one of the coolest days, one of the coolest experiences I've been able to cobble together for myself. I actually didn't get to the top of it because at a certain point you get past the tree line. It was 65 degrees at the base of the climb, and it was snowing at the top. And once I got past the tree line, I was already pretty cold. I was wearing all the clothes that I brought with me. And once I got past that tree line, the snow really started to stick. And I realized I was at a cell phone range. My wife was, halfway across the world and had an idea where I was and what I was doing.
You were alone.
Exactly.
Didn't want to get Donner partied.
Out there. And, that's one of the first rules of being outdoors is you got to know your limits. You got to know there's no guardrails. So as much as it stunk to, suck it up and turn around, I could see the top of the mountain in sight, but knew it was probably a good 45 minutes, hour still yet to climb. I turned around and went back down. So I still have to head back and have a score to settle with the Stelvio, but it was an awesome, awesome day. So,
very cool. Very cool.
I mean, and that's kind of, I want to speak more conferences internationally. I definitely want to go to Sweden and Norway and ride my bike there. So I think that's going to kind of be my motivation.
I love it. Any last questions for Jason here?
I had one. So for our listeners who don't know, we send our guests a pre-show questionnaire, and we ask for a headshot. So we have for our marketing purposes, and you sent us a headshot with a 90s school book background with lasers on it, and I was
which is awesome.
Yep.
I was just curious of what the story behind is that. Was that just something you did, or is that how Hertz does headshots now?
I had to go to Glamour Shots for those.
So we at Dragon Search, we were doing headshots, and we were updating a bunch of stuff, and that was one of the things that was joked about, I think, and I jumped on it because who doesn't have a 90s headshot with the laser beams in the back? I definitely have one from first grade.
Yeah.
I also have an alternate one that is a brick wall, but that's boring. I don't think I've ever used it. The laser beams, I put it on everything. So.
Yeah. So when I saw it, it reminded me it was a couple years ago. The guy had his yearbook photo taken. It was a senior yearbook photo, and he had the lasers, and he had himself superimposed in the background with a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
So,
he's a good meme.
Yeah. So I just found that humorous.
So hey, absolutely, Jason. Any final words for the legitimate SEO community?
Legitimate SEO community. I don't know.
All four of us.
Did I have I don't know that I have any final parting wisdom. Just market, man.
Just market. Well, we're certainly going to watch Hertz now. I mean, the line's drawn here is that we're going to start seeing you bring that behemoth up and knock the other competitors out of the way, right?
Yep.
We're going to do it. It's happening.
We'll call you in a year and make fun of you if you don't.
That sounds good.
Wow. Way to just seal the deal there. All right. Well, Jason, we're certainly going to be watching your career, and it's good input. And are you still looking to speak at conference events down the way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the awesome things about Hertz is they want to, they realize that I'm a brand, and I, kind of act like I'm a brand, and they want me to continue to be out there and do awesome stuff like this. And absolutely looking for more invites to conferences, and cool. We'll be out and speaking in 2017.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jason, and we really appreciate you coming on board. Good luck at Hertz, and we'll talk to you real soon.